Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to peel back about 2,000 years of history to really understand the world that shaped one of its most pivotal figures. So, who was the man behind the apostle? Before he was Peter the apostle, the rock of the church, he was just Simon, a fisherman from Galilee. And to truly get a handle on his incredible story, that huge transformation he went through, we first have to understand the world he came from. All right, let's zoom out and start with the big picture. Think of first-century Judea as this immense political pressure cooker. Seriously, this was not a peaceful time. It was a land living under a constant foreign shadow. And just look at the difference here. For Peter and everyone he knew, this was daily reality. Imagine your homeland, your culture, your faith, all controlled by a foreign superpower. You've got Roman soldiers on the streets, crippling taxes, puppet kings. All of this created this constant friction and a deep, deep longing for freedom. This wasn't just a political problem either. The first-century historian Josephus, who lived back then, he wrote all about it. He said this occupation actually fueled a powerful spiritual hope across the land. The political oppression made people look to a higher power for deliverance. So that political tension, it directly fed the spiritual climate. It gave rise to this incredibly powerful, unifying belief that really came to define the whole era. And what was that belief? Well, right at the very heart of Jewish life at this time was this fervent, passionate expectation of a Messiah, a promised Redeemer. And let's be clear, this wasn't some fringe idea. This was the central hope of a nation under enormous pressure. And when you hear words like this from the prophet Isaiah, well, these weren't just ancient, dusty texts to them. Not at all. For a devout guy like Peter, hearing this in the synagogue wasn't a history lesson. It was a living, breathing promise. This was the hope he and his entire community were clinging to. So this is the crucial thing to get. This hope for a Messiah wasn't some abstract academic theory. No way. For the everyday person, the fisherman, the farmer, the guide on the street, it was a deeply personal and urgent expectation for deliverance from their current reality. Okay, so how did all this backdrop of hope and oppression actually shape life on the ground? Well, to see that, we've got to go right to Peter's own backyard, the shores of the Sea of Galilee. Yeah, Peter's life was, it was tangible, and it was tough. He was from a region known for a booming fishing industry. His world was all about nets and boats and just plain hard physical work. But it was also a world of deep community and faith, with the local synagogue at its heart. You needed real skill, strength, and resilience just to make a living there. And this is a fantastic point. Peter wasn't just some guy working for wages. No, he was part of a small, industrious business. He and his brother Andrew, they were partners with James and John. They owned or leased their own boats, their own nets. Think about that. That takes cooperation, trust, and a real head for business. All traits that, would serve him really well later on. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. You've got simmering political tension, right? A powerful spiritual hope, and a tough, hardworking population. What do you get? You get an atmosphere that is just absolutely ready to ignite. Yeah, the air was charged with eschatological expectation. I know, that's a big phrase, but all it really means is that people felt like they were living at a major turning point in history. There was this widespread belief, fueled by prophecy, that God was about to do something big, something dramatic and decisive, and not just politically, but spiritually too. And right into this supercharged environment, a voice starts crying out from the wilderness. It's John the Baptist, and his message, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand," it just spread like wildfire through the region. It tapped directly into that collective hope and anticipation everyone was feeling. And this is where the huge story of a nation narrows right down to one man's personal story. The national mood suddenly becomes a direct personal connection, because it turns out Peter's own brother, Andrew, was a follower of John the Baptist. He was captivated by the message, and that puts Peter just one step away from this movement that was sweeping the land. So into this world steps this one man, about to get a whole new calling. How would it change everything? Well, this is Simon the fisherman, a man shaped by Roman occupation, grounded in his faith, part of this tight-knit working community, and just filled with that same deep hope for redemption as everyone around him. You could say he was perfectly placed for an encounter that would not only alter the course of his life, but the course of history itself.